Hello, Jack. Welcome to my extremely unprofessional approach to making a video. Thank you for attempting to edit me. Okay, let's do this. Hello, humans. My name is Dael Kingsmill, and I think it's time we talked about Bellerophon. He's a dude who had everything handed to him and is the most boring part of his own story. He didn't even make the title of this video. Bellerophon grew up in Corinth, but was exiled after murdering his brother, although, as far as I can find, no one ever gives us the juicy scoop on that particular incident. The stories are adamant, however, that while he did kill his brother, it wasn't really his fault. He's commonly given the epithet Bellerophon the Blameless, which to me that's a funny nickname. It was a murder, but not a crime. So anyway, he kills his brother under mysterious circumstances. You know, boys will be boys, and he's sent into exile. Now Bellerophon finds his way to Argos to be purified by King Proteus. Proteus is from Sinbad. Basically, it's like an annulment for murder. It's like it never happened. Usually you have to go to a temple for that and get cleansed by the gods. I didn't know that you could just, hit up King Joe. Bellerophon and King Proteus are getting along great until the story goes that the king's wife, Stenobia. Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's up there. Stenobia. Oh my gosh, I just Googled it and it means cow. It means strong cow. Stenobia. So the story goes that the king's wife, Stenobia, began burning with passion for Bellerophon and tried to get him to sleep with her. And when he refused, she worried that he would tell the king. So as a preemptive strike, she got to the king first and said that Bellerophon came onto her, not the other way around. The king was furious, but the king had already welcomed Bellerophon into his court, and so he was bound by the laws of hospitality. And the laws of hospitality are a real big deal in Greek myth. So Proteus doesn't dare go after Bellerophon. Instead, he comes up with a cunning plan. Real quick before we move on, that last section varies a lot from source to source. Some versions suggest Stenobia accused Bellerophon of attempting to rape her. It's a trope as old as time. You see it here, you see it in the story of Hippolytus, Joseph in the house of Potiphar in the Bible. Other versions, however, get very coy. In some, she writes Bellerophon a note that basically says, "Do you like me? Yes, no." And he writes back, "Ew." So, and maybe my favorite is the suggestion that actually the reason Bellerophon left Argos had nothing to do with Stenobia. It was because he was just too eligible and handsome, and he couldn't deal anymore with women throwing themselves at him because he's a good, virtuous boy. Bellerophon the Blameless, yo. I don't think I've ever said yo with a more Australian accent. Yo! So anyway, the cunning plan. King Proteus sends Bellerophon off to his father-in-law, the king of Lycia, king number 2. So he sends him off to king number 2 with a letter, but the cunning part is that the letter being delivered actually contains an account of Bellerophon coming onto Stheni. And Stheni is king number 2's daughter. The note says, "Bellerophon's bad news, you need to kill Bellerophon." Unfortunately, king number 2, upon seeing this messenger from his daughter's court arrive, he throws a big party to welcome Bellerophon, and by the time he opens the letter, you guessed it, bound by the laws of hospitality. So, So king number 2 has a thing. He has a name, by the way. His name is Iobates, but there's a lot of names in this story. There's multiple kings on top of everything. I just thought that this would be easier. Maybe it's weird. I'm just gonna keep calling him king number 2. So king number 2, lucky for him, had a monster problem. The Chimera. This is an evil creature ravaging the countryside and devouring all of the livestock. It had the head of a lion at the front. It had the head of a dragon at the back. And then in the middle, a goat. It's the head of a goat. But the goat could breathe fire! King number 2 figures that if he sends Bellerophon to kill the Chimera, at least one of them will die, and that's one less problem. Bellerophon doesn't know where to even begin with this task, so he goes to the seer, Polyidus, who tells him he'll need the winged horse Pegasus if he wants to best the Chimera. Polyidus also tells him where he can find Pegasus. Trouble is, Pegasus is famously untamable. He's like the precursor to Spirit, stallion of the Cimarron. That's how much he values his freedom. So even Polyidus isn't exactly sure how Bellerophon can master Pegasus. He advises Bellerophon to seek the wisdom of the gods. You'll want to sleep overnight in the temple of Athena. She can give you the full instructions that you'll need. So Bellerophon does, and a vision of the goddess appears to him in his dreams. She says, "All right, Sparky, here's the deal. This magic golden bridle that I'm holding, it's gonna be next to you when you wake up, okay? You go make an offering to Poseidon, Lord of Horses," which incidentally, probably Bellerophon's dad, forgot to mention that. "You go make an offering to your dad by slaughtering a snow white bull, and then go to where Pegasus is always hanging out with the muses, and you can ride him. You can use this magic bridle, and he'll be happy to let you ride him." Bellerophon awakens in the temple with the golden bridle beside him. He seizes it, and he rushes back to Polyidus, and he says,
"I had the craziest dream. Athena was there, and she told me to take this magic bridle and make an offering to Poseidon, and then I'd be able to use the magic bridle and Poseidon's blessing to tame Pegasus. But what could it all mean?"
Oh, buddy, that's, you're, This is a new low. Polyidus explains to Bellerophon that he should make an offering to Poseidon, and then go use the bridle to tame Pegasus. He's so stupid, I can't. In other versions of the story, Athena and Poseidon just straight up give him the horse already fully tamed. Bellerophon is self-made. He's a self-made hero. His father gave him a small loan of a magic flying horse. So the most famous version of how this fight goes down turns out, I legit cannot find a source. I've been able to track it to people citing an annotation from a guy called John or Isaac Tzitzis on Lycophron's Alexandra, but I cannot find a translation of the part of Alexandra that Tzitzis is commenting on. So honestly, who knows? Maybe he just made it up. But it is also the coolest version of how this fight goes down, so I'm using it anyway. So the fire from the Chimera's goat head is just, it's too intense. No one can get close enough to fight it. But Bellerophon has a flying horse, a spear, and a lump of lead. So he flies over top of the Chimera and goads it into breathing fire at him, and when it does, he throws the spear down into its mouth with the lead attached to the tip, and the lead melts in the heat of the fire, and it pours down into the Chimera's goat throat and kills it. It is by far the coolest thing Bellerophon ever does, and it might have been made up by some guy called Isaac. Or possibly John. King number 2 tries a couple more times to get Bellerophon killed by asking him to pick fights with other dangerous things, but it never quite works. Bellerophon figures that he's earned all of these victories purely by his own merit. He's written Athena out of his memories, apparently like a male board member, taking the ideas of his female colleagues. Riding high on this thought, Euripides suggests that Bellerophon's next move was to fly back to Argos to visit. He offered all Thenabia an Aladdin-style magic horse ride, and then pushes her off. Soaring, tumbling, freewheeling through an endless diamond sky. So of course, number one thing you want to do when you have a flying horse, go show it off to your ex. Obviously, number 2 on the board is fly to Olympus and become a god! It's clearly what he deserves. He's earned this. So Bellerophon hops on his horse, starts flying on up to heaven. Zeus glances down. He's like, What the hell is that? Is that just some guy? Is that just some mortal guy? What's he doing? Where's he going? Here? No. This isn't happening. So Zeus sends a gadfly to bite Pegasus on the butt, and Pegasus bucks at the sting, and Bellerophon is thrown from his back. Bellerophon falls all the way to Earth, where he either dies, or is blinded, or breaks both his legs, or a combination of all three. The weirdest thing is, I love this. This part of the story gets cut out of a lot of accounts. They just kind of gloss over it. My favorite account of it is, I think, Pindar, who describes all these, like, heroic things. He
defeated the Amazons. He crushed the Solomoi. His fate...
we don't talk about that, but Pegasus lives on Olympus now. So if you'd never heard the full story of the Chimera and how it was defeated, now you know. And you've learned all about Bellerophon, and you can feel free to forget about him again. I hope that you enjoyed the story. Now, I have to do a YouTuber thing for a minute. YouTube content thrives on engagement and, like, click-through rates, amongst other things. So, if you did enjoy the video, consider liking it, leaving your best Bellerophon as a business bro joke in the comments. I want to read them. If you're feeling particularly generous, maybe clicking on another one of my videos in the sidebar or in the end card. I'll link you to another myth video that I made, and also like a D&D one that I've made. If that's your jam, consider checking them out, and I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Apart from that, I do believe that's it. I'm done. Email this to your grandma, and I'll see you some other time. The fact that Poseidon was Bellerophon's dad means that Pegasus was Bellerophon's half-brother.